The current landscape we're just seeing around the world now is just because COVID-19 basically is in place, it doesn't mean the terrorists have gone away. They have not gone away. So we've had incidents of intelligence, again, down in Southeast Asia as well, of terrorists and would-be terrorists. They're saying we can't get out to attack people because there's no one on the street. So let's use COVID-19, get infected and use it to spit on door handles and trains and spit on people to transmit this disease further and further. So the current landscape that we are seeing a lot more people put a lot more propaganda out here. As you can see, the Book of Terror, this is Al-Qaeda inspired terrorism, and really showing people through manuals of how they can actually make and utilize tactics and terrorism to use as a political phenomenon to get to bend governments to their will. So terrorism is something that's been around a very long time. And it's not something that's kind of known only in one particular region of our world. It's a phenomenon that's used by many different groups. However, the method of delivery, the method of transmitting a message through violent acts and gathering media headlines is becoming a lot more virulent and a lot more violent. As you've seen here in the Aramco attack, they used a series of drone attacks, weaponized drones, to attack, 50%, take down 50% allegedly of the Saudi Arabian Aramco facility. However, that's also 50%, they say, of the world's oil reserve, which was knocked out of action by a couple of kamikaze drones. Kamikaze drones indicate that these drones are one-time usage. Now, whether they were fired from Iran or whether they were fired from Yemen, that's still locked in intelligence conversations. However, the fact of the matter is they did hit. They had approximately 17 points of impact on key infrastructures, and that there will have a massive impact on insurance, supply chain, critical infrastructure, and the affordability of everybody in the world filling the pumps of the car at the garage. So that will be felt. And if there's more attacks, which I'm sure there will be, we're going to have bigger implications. So now we're starting to see the more of the use, and I think I mentioned this about a year ago to you, Chris, about the use of drone swarms. So what's happening is we've seen a few military attacks used by Turkey in recent campaigns, military campaigns, where they're using the drone to actually go out to minimize the use of life, to protect their soldiers, and use the drones in the swarms to attack. Now, the only problem with using the swarms, and these are a lot more data to make good attacks, but again, technology is becoming more available. People are getting better usage and abusage of the internet to find out how to make these attacks. And as you can see here, the propaganda pictures used by people who wish to harm us are becoming more available on the internet, and basically it is inspiring people. But is it easy to weaponize a drone? Some people say, oh no, it's too difficult. It is not difficult. We've seen it many times in Afghanistan, we've seen it in Iraq, we've seen many types of assassination attempts, and we're going to see a lot more of them. The important thing is that people who fire drones, people who utilize drones, they are no respecters of borders or sovereignties. They can operate from the country next door or a region that's not located next to yours. So it makes the attacks more simple, it makes it more viable, and it protects the terrorists from intrusion into that country and detection. Because as I said, all forms of crime start with some form of physical surveillance. Again, when we're on land or we're in air, we have a better usage from looking the eagle eye approach of the ground, of the reconnaissance. That typed in with a bit of knowledge about using online mapping becomes a very powerful cocktail for destruction. And just some background here, the global drone market estimated is $14 billion over the next decade. And this is usually in the form of non-military drones, and that tells you quite a lot about what's coming. Again, to make these attacks possible, Chris, we need to understand that drones require infrastructure function. For drone swarms to be functional, they need to communicate with each other in real time. Drone swarms need a huge amount of data to be handled effectively. Drone swarms need to be able to make split-second decisions, and that requires them to have artificial intelligence. Are we seeing the use of AI? Absolutely, it's freely available. This here is going to have a massive implication on the regions, especially of Singapore, Malaysia, all these countries where it's very hard to read the mapping of the country because the borders are basically covered in large forested areas and jungles. So it's going to get a lot more tricky out there. So we have to become a lot more aware. And a lot of critical infrastructure, especially power stations and oil gas, are offshore or they're very deep in jungles. So again, it's going to be quite interesting to see how the managers are going to tackle that problem. So So as you go into the bigger course, we'll be talking about continuation of the new normal, and we're looking at counter unarmed aircraft systems and what we can do. We can look at kill change, we'll be looking at detection technology, flight path disruption. We're going to be looking at observation, orientation, deciding and acting on what to do before the situation happens, rather than reacting to when it does come in. Because if people fly a drone over your location, they're there for a reason. You have something they want, and they're going to get to it. So we have to start planning now. So I would suggest that if people don't start waking up to the threat that is unmanned aerial systems, UAVs, and protection against them, I mean, people think that when you deal with a drone, you shoot it down. You can't do that in the civil space. We have to use technology to actually bring the drone down. But now we have ways where we can actually identify the drone. Now we have ways we can identify the IP address, and we can actually put the drone to the operator and actually roughly work out the locations of what they're doing, then figuring out their identities, and then what type of intelligence they're looking for, and we can feed it into a human factor for protection, corporate and national security as well.
Now we're going to do all that in our course, right?
Absolutely. We're going to do all of that, and it's going to be very exciting. As I say, we're going to take this and we're going to show how something like this can take down, you know, a $50 million resilience and security in some of the most secure locations in the world, and what we can do about it, utilizing the same innovation, the same innovative thinking as the people who wish to do our people and our nations harm.